Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, welcome. My name is Labrini and welcome to my channel. So today I'm gonna film my video for my midweek mystery video. I'll link the first one that I did somewhere. I don't know which side it is, somewhere here. And today we're gonna talk about an unsolved mystery, and this was one of like the most talked about when I was younger, when this happened. I hope you guys liked the video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Give it a thumbs up if you do. It does help for the algorithm. And yeah, so do whatever you want. Don't forget to comment, and let's get into the video. So I already did do my eyebrows, primed my eyelids, primed my face just to get it out of the way, because I did try to film this video this week and I was like done with the story before like I was done with my makeup. So I was like, yeah, because we don't have a lot of details about this story. So I'll try to link everything that I used down below in the description box or on the screen somewhere for you guys. So I'm gonna go in with this palette. So like I was saying, we don't have a lot of information about this case, just because it happened in a way that we never really thought it would, just because it's something that didn't happen very often here. And I think that's when parents would tell their kids, like, don't get into cars with a stranger, don't talk to strangers. I think that's because of that story that this happened, where parents were a little bit more vigilant with, like, don't talk to strangers and all that stuff. Because this, like I said, it's something that never really happened here, and it was like a weird story, I guess. So we're gonna talk about Cedrika Provencher. She was born August 29, 1997, and she went missing on July 31st, 2007. She was 9 when she went missing, and I think I was about like 13 or 14 years old. This went on for years before finding something, but we don't have like anything. There's a couple of witnesses. There's one that they thought might be responsible, but it's a weird story. So this story became like one of the most publicized and mediatized story in Quebec. So she went missing July 31st, 2007 in Trois-Rivières, Quebec. She went at the park with a friend in the park Chapin to just go play with her friend, and she had a curfew, so I think her curfew was about 8 p.m. and the parents got worried when she wasn't home. So every year they would republish the story and attempt to help the investigators find her, give credible and relevant information on what happened to her. And on December 11th, 2015, her remains were found. As per usual, I do have my notes here with me. So what happened the day that she went missing, is that, like I said, she went to the park with one of her friends at the Parc Chapin in Trois-Rivières, and this man came to her and said that a woman lost her dog, and if she could help find the dog with him, and she said yes. So some witnesses saw her come out of the woods with a little girl and a man, and saw a red car near the park, just like being there weirdly. So she went with the man and she was knocking door to door and asking people like, have you seen a little dog? I think it was like a white and black dog that he said to her. And I don't know if it's true, but some people said that they saw her get into a red Acura with silver handles on it. I don't know if it's because I've seen a couple of information on the internet, but some people have said that. So Cedrika had a curfew, and when her mom noticed that she wasn't home already at 8, she called the police because she thought it was really weird that she wasn't home yet. So she called them and said like, my daughter is missing. So in the beginning of this, they have to put the missing child depending on the cases, because it wasn't probably like a couple of days. I know they put it as a missing person in like 48 hours or 72 hours from the stuff that I've seen on the internet, but they put this as a runaway in the beginning because, you know, you're 9 years old, you could like run away from home. But her parents were like, no, she's not like that. She's not the type of little girl to run away. So they just found it weird, but you know, police officers have to do that in the beginning of a case instead of putting it as a missing person or kidnapped person. So they found her bicycle around 8:30 that night. I've read somewhere that it was like laying on a fire hydrant, and someone said it was like near a container. So one of those two. Sorry, it's like very mixed. So for the following days, at least like 50 police officers and about 100 volunteers were helping day and night to try and find her with like boats and helicopters. So on August 8th, the SQ published a research notice that did not support the thesis of a kidnapping, but rather the disappearance of Cedrika Provencher. Nevertheless, newspapers prefer to mention that she was kidnapped. So depending on where you were watching the news, some people said that she was missing, some people said that she was kidnapped, depending on which news outlet that you were watching. Like I said, it was very publicized because we didn't see that happen a lot in Canada, Quebec, and in Trois-Rivières. Like Trois-Rivières is like between Quebec and Montreal. It's not a big city, but it's not a small city too. It's like in the middle. So like I said, her disappearance received a lot of media coverage. So this really sparked people to try and find her. There was actually also a $80,000 reward for any information to try to find Cedrika. They offered an $80,000 reward, which unfortunately didn't do nothing. And in 2008, this man named François C. Bourbeau, he usually works with people, medium people to try and find missing persons, and he worked with Mr. X to try and find Cedrika. They actually filmed everything with the family, the grandfather, the mother, all that stuff. They filmed it with Mr. X. He's a medium, like I said. And they were at the police station, and he received a letter of notice saying, like, you're not allowed to publish those video tapes. You're not allowed to publish anything about that story. So probably Mr. X probably knew some information and found out some information because Mr. X actually did help, if I'm not mistaken, he did help to find 2 missing people in another case. And after that, there was another man who did a documentary on Cedrika Provencher, and he was supposed to be released and all that stuff. And the father sent him 2 letters of notice that he's not allowed to publish the documentary. So I know that a lot of people did find it weird, tried to put the father in as a suspect. They did find it weird, like the way that he acted about like the notice and all that stuff. I'm not judging, just saying what people are saying. And like in an interview, like people asked him like, are you surprised that your daughter went to help and tried to find a dog with someone? And he was like, no, she's that type of little girl. But I remember like people did find him weird on the way that he acted, and because of those 2 letters that he sent the guy to not publish the documentary, I know a lot of people found it weird, and they were like, you're suspicious a little bit. So the only information that the police had was like there was a red Acura with silver handles prowling around the park that day. So the police decided to meet all of the owners that had the same car that looked the same, and it was 260 people. Only 5 of them were residents in Trois-Rivières. 4 of them accepted to do the lie detector test, and 1 did not. And so they decided to have a search warrant, search his car, and they like noticed that his car was extremely clean, like too clean. So they finally gave his name out to the public, and his name was Jonathan Bété. I don't know if I'm saying it right. He was an owner of a wrapping company. So he was, I think, 36 when this happened. And, you know, he had his own company, had a little bit of money. And yeah, he was one of the suspects, but they didn't have a lot of proof about if he had anything to do with Cedrika's disappearance. We don't know. He was never really, how do you say that? Like, we didn't have any proof. If it was really him. There was an interview back in 2011 where a journalist went to see him, and he was like, hi, I want to talk about the Cedrika Provencher. And he was like, I don't want to talk about it. It's old news. It's ruined my life for the past 3 years, and I just want to get over it. So a lot of people were like weirded out about like what he said. But yeah, there's not a lot about this guy. There's not a lot of information. Like I said, this case is like weird because we don't have a lot of information. We don't know like what happened really. So he was the only he was the only guy that they thought he had something to do with it. Like I said, there wasn't a lot of witnesses. They saw a man near Cedrika. She was very easy to recognize because she had like really like a lot of hair, and there were like she had like curly hair. She was very cute, and it's a shame for her, unfortunately. There was a lot of rumors going on about like, we saw her here, we saw her there. There was a picture like on Facebook. I think this girl was from Russia or something, and she looked like her, and a lot of people were like, oh my god, I think it's her. She's probably in Russia right now. She was probably sold for trafficking and all that stuff. A lot of people thought that she was probably sold for trafficking, and it could have happened, but that's not what happened, unfortunately. So Jonathan Bété was one of the suspects for the police for many, many years. They really tried to see if he had anything to do with it. In 2016, he was arrested because they were searching his company, the computer company, and they found CP. I'm not going to say the word because YouTube. And he was arrested for it. And I think there was like pictures of girls who were involved with Cedrika, but they were really young kids. It was between 2009 and 2013. And this man did an interview with a reporter, and he talked about like he saw a car near the highway. I think I can't remember the highway, but near the highway was probably near where her remains were found a couple of years later. And he's like, I saw this car just on the side of the road, and I thought he had a problem with like his car or something, probably a flat tire or like not working anymore. So I decided to stop. And he said he was talking to someone and pointing in the woods. And he said to the man, like, do you need help? And the man was like, he took off his glasses. And he said, no, who sent you here? And he's like, no one. I just saw like the car stopped on the side of the road. I thought like you probably needed a phone to call. And he's like, no, I don't. And he left. So he said like it was probably in the middle of the night or something, so he didn't really see his face that much. The only thing he remembered is when he heard him on the news, Jonathan Bété, when he heard his voice on television, he was like, that's the guy that I saw that day. But there's not a lot of information, like even with him, there's not a lot of information. So for the charges in 2016 for CP, October 12th, 2018, so he was acquitted from the charges of CP, and I saw somewhere that he actually brought them to court. He wants to bring them to court for money, and it's not going to be until like 2022 because of like what's going on right now, virus. So he's going to go into court for that, for money. I think defamation or something about like these CP charges. So on December 11th, 2015, some hunters were basically hunting, of course. They found remains on Highway 40, eastbound, like in a wooded area near exit 210. So it's like near Trois-Rivières. It's in Saint-Maurice, but it's near Trois-Rivières. So it was on the news, like I remember I was watching the news that day, and it was on news that they found human remains. And the next day they actually confirmed that they were the remains of Cedrika Provencher. So she was found like 8 years later, and unfortunately we don't know like what happened to her, how she passed away. We don't know. I don't know if they're keeping information for them to try and see the case, to try and close the case. I don't know. So the day that the remains were found, Jonathan Bété actually went to the hospital, and he went there because he said he thought he was having a heart attack, but in fact he was actually having a panic attack, which a lot of people found weird. It's not weird to go to the hospital because you're having a panic attack. It's not that. It's like, you know, he was one of the suspects, and the way that he acted when the remains were found. So yeah, a lot of people did find that weird, that, you know, he went to the hospital that day that the remains were found. So yeah, we're still like, we don't know any information. We don't know what happened to her. And it's sad because, you know, she was 9 years old. She still had her life ahead of her. Like, she had many, many years ahead of her. This story was really sad. We don't have a lot of these stories here. We do have some. I'm not saying that we don't, but it was like the one that was like the most talked about in Quebec, Canada, Quebec. It was like everywhere on the news. Like, until the day that the remains were found, you probably would see her story every single day on the news. And because a lot of people would call and be like, I've seen her there, I've seen her there. A lot of stories, but unfortunately, you know, her remains were found, and it was a very sad story. Like, I remember just like feeling so sad for the parents. They don't know what happened to their daughter. I don't know if I would want to know truly what happened to my kid if that ever happened. Like, I don't want to know if like she probably suffered or something, but it's just so sad. You know, she was just like 4 years younger than me, so it could have happened to anybody, and it's really, really sad. It's still an unsolved mystery. And, you know, it's been 6 years. We found her remains like 6 years ago, and there's no update. We don't know what happened. So what do you guys think about this story? Like, do you think the suspect that we had was probably had more to do with her disappearance than anything? Because he sold the car. I think he sold the car like not too long after he sold his car. And like the police did find it weird that, you know, his car was cleaned. And there was also like a story, I forgot to mention, this woman, she owned a hotel, and this man, I think the day that she went missing, he rented a room, and the next day he left, and the room service came to clean the room, and she like saw like blood on the floor. And they said that like many years after, because I think she like doing business with the Hells Angels, if you know what they are. They're like, am I allowed to say it? I don't know. They're like a bike group that do deals, drugs, all that stuff. So allegedly she did business with them, and I think her hotel burned down probably that's what I heard when I was researching for this case. So she didn't say anything then, but she said that like a couple of years after, of course, like they cleaned the blood out that day. But yeah, so we don't know anything more about the story. So I'm gonna put my mascara on and I'll be right back, because complicated. This is the story of Cedrika Provencher. We unfortunately don't have that more info, even though like it was a very publicized, mediatized story. We don't know anything about it. So this is it for today. I do hope you guys still liked the video, even though we don't have a lot of information about it. But yeah, this is the story of Cedrika Provencher. I mean, no disrespect or any harm with the family and all this stuff. I just think that it's a good idea to talk about it, and just that, you know, kids, be careful out there, and don't talk to strangers. Don't get in a car with strangers. Like I said in the beginning of the video, this is when like I think parents were like more like, be careful with strangers. So yeah, I hope you guys like the video, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.